This lesson is going to show you how credit cards and promotions that stores have to sell their items involve interest and how dangerous interest can be when you're borrowing money on a credit card or borrowing money from the store to pay for something. So the finance charge, the first word we're looking at, is the cost above the purchase price to buy an item. Purchase, the price to buy an item. So it's basically how much interest is this place actually charging you. So we're going to look at the first example and the next two after it, and you're going to start to see that buying things on credit cards, if you're not paying it off when your statement comes, actually ends up costing you quite a bit of money. So we have the first example where Sheng Li has a $4,300 unpaid balance on his credit card, and it charges him an interest rate of 19.5% per annum, so per year. The payment was due on March 23rd. So on March 23rd, it says his payment is $50 or 10% of the outstanding balance, whichever is more. How much must he pay? So there's two things we got to compare. The bill says he either has to pay $50 or he has to pay 10% of what's actually on his credit card, whichever one's higher. So to find 10%, this was the balance on his credit card, the $4,384.76. And we need to find 10% of that. So 10% as a decimal is 0.10. So we'll look at our calculator and we'll actually determine what that is. 4384.76 times 10% is $438.48. Now it's important to round money to two decimals. So this question says when a statement comes, he either has to pay $50 or 10%, whichever one's higher. Well, obviously, this is way higher. So this is his monthly payment he has to make to the credit card. Now it goes on a little further saying, what will his balance be on April 15th? So he's just going to pay the minimum payment. Now here's where credit cards get a little tricky. Credit cards, no matter how much you pay off, will always charge you interest on what your balance was. So he's going to be charged interest on this $4,300 right off the get-go. So we're going to calculate how much interest that actually is. So he has a principal of $4,384.76. Now his interest payment, or his interest rate, is 19.5% per year, but they charge him interest every month. So we're going to times this by the interest. So first off, this is 19.5% as a decimal, but they're charging him 1/12 of it because every month they just charge him 1 month's worth of that interest. So we're going to look at how much the interest cost or the finance fee is just on this credit card debt. So we're going to take his $4,384.76 and we're going to multiply it by 0.1950 divided by 12 months because that the 19.5 is for a year and he's only getting charged interest every month. So if I determine what this is, his interest charge is $71.25. So for holding that balance and not paying the whole thing off, the credit card company in that 1 month is going to charge him over $70 in interest. So now it says, what will his balance be? So basically, how much is he owing on that credit card? So we're going to start by saying, well, his statement was for $4,384.76. He didn't pay it all off. So the bank's going to charge him $71.25 for not paying it off in interest. But right up here, it does say he did make this monthly payment of $438.48. So he is paying some of it back. So all we need to do is crunch those numbers in our calculator, and you'd determine that at the end of this month, his credit card statement is still for $4,017.53. So even though he paid off over $400, the credit card company is still charging him over $70 of interest. So credit card, it's very easy to get into credit card debt and very hard to get out of if you just keep making just the minimum amount that you have to pay every month. So let's look at the next example. We have Daphne. She's charged 18.95% per annum on her credit card balances. She used her card, which had no previous balance, to make a purchase of over $2,000. She didn't use the card again before her statement dated April 29th. So she made one purchase of $21.98.95 on her card. And it's saying on May 2nd, so after the statement date, she paid the minimum balance of 5%. And then on May 6th, she took out another $95.10. And then it's saying at the end of May, when her next statement comes, how much is she actually owing? So again, we're in a situation where she didn't pay off the whole card, so she's going to be charged interest. So let's first off look at how much interest she's going to be charged for April, because she didn't pay the whole thing off. So she has $2,198.95 on her credit card. She didn't pay it all off, so they're going to charge her the interest rate of 18.95% per year, but it's a monthly charge. So this is going to be how much interest they're going to charge her because she didn't pay it off. So again, we'll look at this numbers and see how we can put this in our calculator. So that times 0.1895 divided by the 12 months. So in 1 month now, the card company is going to charge her $34.73 interest. So they have to pay, she has to pay this to the company just because she's using their money. So that means now on May 2nd, it said she made a 5% payment. So that 5% payment is 5% of what was on there. So we're going to figure out what that is. 2198.95 times the 0.05, the 5%. So she made a payment of $109.95. So now we have to figure out, okay, at the end of this month on April 29th, how much did she actually have left owing on her credit card? So we'll look at that and we'll say she started with the $21.98.95. She didn't pay it all off, so they charged her $34.73 interest, but she did pay off the $109.95. So her new balance at the end of that month is $2,123.73. So this is the balance starting the next month, because she didn't pay it off and they charged her little interest. So there's her balance. So we dealt with basically this first line. Now it says on May 6th, she took out an additional $95.10 on her credit card. So her credit card now statement was $21.23.73, and she borrowed $95.10. That's what a cash advance is. You take money off your credit card just to have cash in your pocket. Add this on to what she already owes. So she now owes $2,200.83. It's saying she makes no other transactions. So at the end of May, on her next statement, this is how much she owes now on May 29th. So she could choose to pay it all off. She can choose to pay 5% of it and then deal with more interest. But we can see that getting out of credit card debt actually takes a little bit of time. So the last example, now these are promotions that you often see at many furniture stores, appliance stores, and they're saying, you know what, we're buying a new stove and the cost is just under $1,000. The store has an offer of nothing down and 4 easy payments of $265. And then they're saying, so what did this stove actually cost you? What's the total cost of this stove on this plan? This is a simple calculation. You're paying $265 for 4 months. So we just take 265 times by 4, you're actually paying $1,060 for this stove. It was under $1,000, the sticker on it, but because they charging you $265 each month, you're actually ending up paying them more. So there is interest involved in here. A lot of people don't realize that. Now it says use the simple interest formula to calculate what the interest was being charged. So we're going to look at it as a monthly interest rate as well as how much are they actually charging you per month. So just to let you know, this is, to remind you, this is the simple interest formula. Interest equals the principal times the rate times the time. But in order to do this, it's asking us what is the interest rate? Like what are they actually charging us? We need to figure out how much interest that this store actually charged us. So interest is basically saying, well, I ended up paying $1,060 for this, but the stove only had a sticker cost of $989.95. So if I was to say, how much did this store actually charge me in interest? They actually charged me $70.05 interest by saying, just pay me in 4 months and we'll call it even. So $70 interest. So now we got to use that $70 and we need to put it in here for the interest. So we have $70.05 equals the principal. That's how much we bought the stove for. So that was the $989.95 multiplied by some interest rate, which we're going to try to find. And you were paying that for 4 months. So now we can do some number crunching and do some algebra to figure this out. On the right-hand side of the equal sign, we can multiply these two things together. So we can say 989.95 times 4, 989.95 times 4 actually gives us $3,959.80 times some interest rate. Now algebra is saying on this right-hand side, these two things are multiplying together. So to get the r by itself, we can divide out the number. But what we do to one side, we need to make sure we do to the other. So this will leave me with my interest rate as a decimal. So in my calculator, I'm going to say $70.05 divided by the $3,959.80 means right now, as a decimal, I'm paying approximately 0.01769. But if I wanted to see that as it is as a percent, I'm going to take this and I'm going to multiply it by 100. So as an interest rate, I'm actually paying 1.769% per month to this company. So that's what they're charging me per month. If I wanted to figure out how much that is per year, because a lot of interest rates are talked about as being per annum, I just take this and multiply it by 12 months, and we can see my interest rate for 12 months is 21 point roughly 23% per A, so that's per annum or per year interest rate. So the question didn't specify what the monthly or the yearly, so I can look at both of them. This is huge for an interest rate. You can see that this is actually more than those two credit card examples we did. One had a 19.5%, the other one just was 18.95%. This is a high interest rate per year. So we can see when we're buying things from stores or on credit cards, they are charging us interest, and the interest is usually a lot higher than actually taking out a bank loan. So for the convenience of using a card or the convenience of just letting the store let you pay them back, you're going to pay a big interest rate.